The media's Trump bashers are finally coming out of the closet. They are finally acknowledging, admitting, conceding what is obvious to anyone with a kindergarten education, that the entire press establishment is heavily tilted against Donald Trump. It's not that they favor Hillary Clinton. She's been almost overshadowed and in many cases ignored with all the negative Trump coverage. Now, this is not a defense of Donald Trump. Donald Trump has made mistakes in this campaign, a number of them lately. Those deserve to be covered aggressively. But now we're at a point where if you look at since the conventions, the last 10 days, 2 weeks of coverage, it is so overwhelmingly and personally negative against Donald Trump that you have to ask what is going on. Now, here's an attempt by Jim Rutenberg. He's the media columnist for the New York Times, to acknowledge this. I give him credit for that, but also to defend it and justify it in a way that I think cannot be justified. So Rutenberg writes that if you, as a reporter, view a Trump presidency as something that's potentially dangerous, then your reporting is going to reflect that. You would move closer than you've ever been to being oppositional. That's uncomfortable and uncharted territory for every mainstream non-opinion journalist I've ever known, and by normal standards, untenable. But, says Rutenberg, normal standards may not apply. And this is the nub of the argument. And if some journalists have been saying this privately, now we have at least one saying it publicly, and it really is getting kind of obvious. There is a widespread feeling among many mainstream journalists. I'm not talking here about commentators who are paid for their opinions. Reporters, editors, producers, the people who kind of make the media machine hum, that Donald Trump is a threat to the country, that his presidency would be a disaster, that he's dangerous to Western civilization. And therefore, they have to do things. They have to go after him in a way that they have never gone after any presidential candidate, not even Republican presidential candidates. And somehow, this is sort of their duty to the country to stop Donald Trump. But if you do that, if that is your view, then you are no longer a journalist. You are a partisan. And that is the direction in which many journalists, certainly not all, seem to be moving. Trump is dangerous. All my friends agree. Anybody with common sense agrees. He's a racist. He's unqualified. He is xenophobic. You go through the list of adjectives. And therefore, that colors your reporting. And Rutenberg goes on to say that it would be an abdication of political journalism's most solemn duty to ferret out what candidates would be like in the most powerful office in the world. Well, aggressive journalism is a good thing. When Trump makes misstatements, when he appears to be ignorant about issues, when he is engaging in behavior, picking fights in a way that is a distraction from his duties as presidency, of course we need to pursue that. But doesn't there need to be some balance in the way we also cover Hillary Clinton? I get it. She's been around for 25 years. There's a sense that we know how she would do as president, that she doesn't need this kind of vetting. She's been Secretary of State. She's been a senator. She's been First Lady. Donald Trump is an outsider. He's a businessman. He is not somebody with a track record in politics. But when you add all that up, it means that one candidate is getting all kinds of scrutiny and criticism, and Trump has been running against the press, let's face it, since the day he got in the race, and the other is not. That's unbalanced. That's unfair. And to the extent that Trump is going to be depicted by mainstream media organizations as being so over the top and so outlandish and so outrageous and so uninformed and so unqualified to be president, that just screams to people who already distrust our business, who already believe that we don't have credibility, that we are biased. It screams to them that we are not going to be fair. One final point. Many of the same journalists and pundits involved in doing this were also those who mocked and minimized Donald Trump, who didn't think he was going to win the nomination, who thought he was going to flame out after a few months, many of whom acknowledged underestimating the magnitude of the anger and frustration out there among many American voters, which is what is fueling the rise of Trump. If we now continue to ignore that anger and frustration and hold Trump to some impossibly high standard because deep down we believe he is dangerous, we are forfeiting much of our remaining credibility as journalists.